Good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening.
Pranam, sir.
खुश रहो.
Sir, today we will start macroeconomics.
Yeah. Today I am discussing you classical and Keynesian and its synthesis by Hicks-Hansen.
Okay.
I have seen your syllabus.
Okay, sir.
Classical economist says that interest rate is a macro and micro concept. Interest rate is determined by saving and investment. Interest rate is a function of investment and saving. Interest rate interest rate is micro concept, but today interest rate is used in macroeconomics. Classical economist says that interest rate is micro concept, but today interest rate is used in macroeconomics. Interest rate is determined by saving and investment. So, interest rate is a function of investment and saving. So, this is classical system. This is classical system. Interest rate is micro concept, but today interest rate is used in macroeconomics. Interest rate is determined by saving and investment. As Marshall says. Interest rate is determined by saving and investment. As Marshall says, R is a function of I and S. Have you written?
Yes, sir.
R is a function of I and S. I is a function of R. DI S is a function of R. ds by dr is more than 0. Therefore, this is investment and this is saving. At point E, I is equal to S. This is saving and investment, and this is interest rate. Interest rate equilibrium. Equilibrium interest rate. Equilibrium interest rate equal to OR. OM is investment, OM is saving, therefore investment is equal to saving at point E. Equilibrium E. I means investment. S is equal to saving. So in the classical system, equilibrium interest rate determined by saving and investment both. So interest rate is a function of O. Interest rate is a function of I and S. क्या कर रहे अपन? Have you written?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is classical system.
Yes, sir.
Saving and investment is a function of
I and S. R. Saving and investment is a function of both rate of interest.
yes. A rate of interest is a function of.
I and S. Investment
Oh.
and savings.
So this is classical. Keynesian system. According to James Keynes, L is equal to M. Equilibrium interest rate is determined. Interest rate is a function of L and M. L is equal to L1 plus L2. L means liquidity. L means liquidity. So L is equal to M. And M is a function of interest rate, but dm by dr is equal to 0. Therefore, M is always vertical line. M
Money
is
supply,
always
sir. Money supply.
money supply. M means money supply. And this is demand for money. Demand for money is L. Demand for money is L. Liquidity. Liquidity means demand for money.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
What is the shape of L1 and L2? Do you know it?
L1 and L2. L1 and L2, that is transaction demand for money and speculative demand for money. And it will be negatively sloped, and after certain time, it will be parallel to the horizontal axis.
What is the shape of L1?
What is the shape of transaction demand for money and positively sloped?
Wrong. L1 is a vertical line, and L2, you are right, that this portion is infinity. That is known as liquidity trap.
Liquidity trap. Why, sir, L1 vertical?
Because L1 is a function of R, and dL1 by dr is equal to 0. It is done.
L1 stands for, sir, transaction demand for money.
Transaction plus precautionary.
Yes, sir, L1 stands for transaction.
Transaction plus precautionary.
Okay, sir.
And L2 for a speculative motive.
Okay, sir.
So transaction purpose, you will spend money, interest rate.
There is no relation between interest rate and liquidity.
Yeah. You are determined to spend on your hotel bill, spa bill, salon bill. These are the fixed thing which you will do it. It is
Yes,
not
sir.
related to interest rate. But L2 is a function of R and DL2 D are negatively sloped. A speculative activities.
Yes, sir.
A speculative and this is transaction and transaction and precautionary.
Sir,
Yeah,
Keynes was the first person who introduced liquidity trap and speculative demand for money.
yes, you are right.
Okay, sir.
Now, by using these two, we will draw a line that is known as L.
Yes.
This distance is L1 and this distance is L2. So adding 2, we will get L.
Sir, that means upper portion should be uh, parallel to the vertical axis, then it is negatively sloped, and then the infinity portion.
Okay, you are right. So therefore there is a gap. L2, L2 has no gap. It touches y-axis,
Hmm.
but L will not touch y-axis.
Yes, sir.
It will be distance by L1.
Hmm.
Distance will be
L1.
L1. So if you have conception of L2, that is touching y-axis.
Yes, sir.
But L will not touch y-axis because L starts from L1.
Hmm.
L1 plus L2. L1 distance is constant. So the vertical area will be taken and L2 is taken. Liquidity trap is there, shown here in this diagram. And this is M curve, supply of money.
Supply of money, which is constant.
So interest rate is determined by this diagram, L and M.
Hmm.
L equal to M, interest rate is OR.
Hmm.
Equilibrium interest rate,
Hmm.
where L is equal to
M.
M. Demand for money is equal to supply of money.
Hmm.
Demand for money equal to
Supply of money.
supply of money. This is given by James
Okay.
King in 1936. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But neoclassical synthesis says that both are wrong. Mute karo.
Yes, sir.
Both are wrong. First, we take up the first one. Interest rate is not determined by saving and investment. Interest rate is not determined by saving and investment. Hicks-Hansen. Neoclassical synthesis. Number one, income is missing. Income is missing in classical. Classical system. Hicks says R is a function of Hicks said that investment is a function of income and rate of interest. Saving is a function of income and rate of interest. Y is equal to income. Which is missing. Which is missing in classical system. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So if we draw investment and we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. Income Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5. Then what will happen? At this point, R5 and I is equal to S. Here also I is equal to S. Interest rate is R4. Here also investment is equal to I equal S.
Multiple
Interest rate,
equilibrium.
yeah, I is equal to S. R3, R2. I is equal to S. R1. So what we get from this, that income is Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5. Interest Y1, R5, inverse, R5, R4, R3, R2, R1. Here I is equal to S. 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 which is equilibrium interest rate, it is not determined. Which is equilibrium interest rate it is not determined. Classical system rejected. Have you written?
Yes, sir.
So Hicks rejected classical system and says that there is no inclusion of income, therefore that is being rejected. But what is important, that at every place I is equal to S. So this is a derivation of IS curve. By default, what we get, I is equal to S. At a different interest rate and a different level of income, we can get from classical system IS curve.
Okay, sir. Yes, yes, I scar.
Hicks says, write down, Hicks says that from classical system, by putting income into it, IS curve is derived. I is equal to S curve is derived.
Yes, sir.
But classical theory is rejected. It is not going to give us one equilibrium interest rate. It is not going to give us one equilibrium interest rate. Of course, we get a curve, IS curve. So the classical system of interest determination is rejected.
Hmm.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Is it interesting or not?
I- Very much interesting.
Then Hicks says that L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. And income is Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5. Here also L is equal to M, 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 L is equal to M. Say that L is a function of Y and R. M is a function of Y and R according to Hicks. And hence L is a function of R, M is a function of R. Income term
Ignored.
missing. So Hicks rejected liquidity preference theory of interest. But what he did that LM curve is derived from the previous diagram. From the previous diagram, what we find out that income is Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5, and interest rate is R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. So here also L is equal to M. 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 So L is equal to M. Line is derived. Line is derived by putting
Y.
income. By putting income Y in Keynesian system. Keynesian system. So L is equal to M curve, LM curve is derived. Interest rate and income is combined together, and Hicks has derived L is equal to M curve. There are multiple equilibrium, and which tell us only that R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5. We will have different points where I is equal to M is found. But nowhere we can get a single equilibrium. Therefore, liquidity preference becomes ineffective as soon as income is put into the system. When income is put into the system, liquidity preference theory becomes ineffective. Of course, there is a factor that L equal to M curve, L equal to L curve is derived. And this is the refinement by Hicks-Hansen, which has given synthesis of classical and Keynesian system, which is very powerful tool in macroeconomics. So what we get two things we get IS curve and we get LM curve. IS curve, LM curve. If both are, then this is Y1, this is R1. Here I is equal to S is equal to L is equal to M. At point E, equilibrium. Equilibrium interest rate. Equilibrium interest rate is OR1 at OY1 at OY1 income. At OY1 income. Here R, here income, here R, here income, IS curve
LM curve.
and LN curve. This is equilibrium. This is equilibrium. Hicks-Hansen synthesis that there is always IS and LM. If LM changes, IS changes, there will be first equilibrium will be here, R1, Y1. Second equilibrium will be here, Y2, R2. That means interest rate changes. Mute karo. Interest rate changes.
Sir, LM curve shifts to right or left?
Right.
Right.
Right shift. Right shift means increase. Left shift means decrease.
Decrease. Yes.
What is important? This is economic growth. This you can use in economic growth also, ISLM. Nobody will use it. You can use as a modern tool. Economic growth. Y is equal to economic growth. Income means growth.
Yes.
Income means growth. So this is achievement that this is called macro model. One equilibrium is at E point, another equilibrium is at E2 point.
Yes, sir.
Interest rate increases, national income increases, economic growth also increases. It means in the economy, optimism prevails. Even if higher interest rate, investment goes on, and that may be due to the fiscal policy.
Hmm.
IS stands for what?
Investment savings.
No, fiscal policy.
Fiscal policy. Huh?
LMA stands for what?
Monetary
Monetary,
policy.
monetary policy. So when RBI is active in macroeconomics, LM will shift.
Yes, sir.
When budgetary measures will be active, then this will be IS will shift.
Huh.
So we conclude that classical and Keynesian system were defective because both ignored
Income.
income. So Hicks-Hansen synthesis,
This is called, sir, neoclassical synthesis. Hicks-Hansen
new,
synthesis is called neoclassical synthesis.
yeah. Neoclassical synthesis. In examination hall,
Hmm?
this is your, in examination hall, this will be your first question.
Yes, sir.
And if you all things you will write in the same order, then you will fetch 80% marks.
Okay, sir.
So rewrite it.
First classical, then Keynesian, after that neoclassical, and why neoclassical Hicks and Hansen rejected both classical and Keynesian. Like this
Okay.
order, though.
Okay.
Like this, sir. Like this, I will write.
What you say?
First, I will write classical model. After that,
Yeah.
Keynesian model, and
Yeah.
then neoclassical, and why Hicks and Hansen rejected both classical and Keynesian.
Okay.
Why?
Because income was missing.
Yes, sir.
Without income, how can you save? Without income, how can you save?
Yes, sir.
Without income, how can you invest?
Yes,
Income
sir.
is the most important tool
Hmm.
that was missing. That's all.
Okay, sir. Good night, sir. Thank you, sir. Pro-
Good
Good
night.
night, sir. Pranam, sir.
खुश रहो, खुश रहो. First class first करो. Breaking result. Breaking result. Gold
I'll
medalist.
I will try my level best, sir. That would not be possible. Gold medal would not be. It's my dream, and it would be dream.
Do you know my qualification?
Yes, sir. You are a gold medalist economist.
So I tell you that you deserve that. Only improve yourself as I say you, and step by step you will reaching towards your goal.
Yes, sir.
Writing, writing answers without seeing copy that you sent to me on WhatsApp.
Okay, sir.
Now we have enough material to prepare for your examination and write it. Without seeing the material, you can write, and then I will see and I will give you marks. That what marks you will do.
Sir, what would be today? What we have learned? And what would be the question on that?
Any question related to synthesis.
Any question related to synthesis? Okay.
Classical, if they ask classical, then you write the classical and criticize it. If
Okay,
they
sir.
ask Keynesian, write the Keynesian and criticize it.
Okay,
Finally,
sir.
you will come to synthesis.
Okay. Okay,
Your
sir.
question may be ABC, classical separate, Keynesian separate, and then integration separate. 3 section.
Okay, sir.
In that way, you break in 3 sections.
Okay, sir.
Con-
And
oh,
I will, I will, I will ready it. I'll ready this. I'll rewrite it by
oh,
myself only, when, with my own language.
okay.
Okay, sir. And I'll